out, what we call shluchim. Shluchim means those who are sent out, known as the Chabad, usually just known as the Chabad Rabbi and Rebbitzin, but the shluchim means that they were sent out. And so they gathered together from all the communities and all over the world. They have a convention for men and they have a convention for women. Convention for men, it was about 2 months ago, and the convention for women is this weekend. The reason it's this weekend because we just had the yahrzeit of Rebbitzin Chaya Mushka, the Rebbe's wife, so they connected to that time. And so as you'll see, the idea that how much the Rebbe focused on family and relationships and family connections, and how much of importance that was. And perhaps you'll see some of the secrets that explain why Chabad families look the way they do, and really the way all families should be. So I think that if you want to encapsulate what we're talking about here, the best way to do it would be to take a look again. For those who remember last week, there was a video at the very, very end of the class, and it was a woman who had gone for a private audience. She was involved in some other Jewish organizations, non-Chabad organizations, and she was with someone who had the audacity, if you could say that, to ask the Rebbe, how do you know the answers to everything, and why do people come to you for these questions that seemingly are not rabbi-related questions? And the answer is very compelling, and it really says a lot about what this entire course is really about. For those of you who probably remember what was discussed there, and he said that you have those that work. It's like when you're building a home, you have those that are working on the home, and you have the workers, you have the builders, you have the masons, you have the painters. Everyone's doing their job to build a home, but ultimately they all have to turn back to the blueprints to know how that home has to be built. And he said, it's not that I am the professional doctor, or to tell someone about their medical condition, or the professional accountant to tell someone about their financial situation, but I am the one that could read the blueprint. What's the blueprint? The blueprint is the Torah. The Torah is the blueprint for the world. And so that's ultimately really what it is finding within Torah the secrets to life. We tend to run to all kinds of professionals on different subjects, and a lot of them are very good professionals, but we have the answers to much of life right here in yesterday we read the Ten Commandments. God gave us the Torah. God gave us the answers to life, from all of our physical issues to spiritual issues and everything in between. And that's really what it is, finding the advice for life within the Torah itself. And all of you who are here are those who have come to find these answers. And hopefully you could share messages that we learn with other people as well. So today we're going to talk about family. And family, as I said, is a wide variety. It could span from parents to children to spouses to anyone that you have an intimate connection with in some way. Whether they're older, whether they're younger, all ages. It's not for just young couples that are starting out. It's for anyone at any age. And they are an invaluable treasure of love, support, profound sense of belonging. But just like anything else, family is that which is something that has to have investment. Whether spouses, children, parents, siblings, they're an extraordinary gift, but we have to put the right effort in making sure that it happens properly. And, as part of my job here, I end up officiating quite a few funerals. Just this past week we had 2 funerals. And for some people, I've never met their families. And then it comes a funeral, and I meet their families, sometimes their children, their siblings. And it's interesting to see, what the backgrounds are of individuals, what they came from, what they ended up being. And it's always sort of this journey. There was an old joke they used to say in camp. It used to say, visiting day is aha day. Because you'd see the kid and then you see the parents, you say, aha, okay. But anyway, it's interesting to see different family dynamics and where they come from. But this is what it takes. It's just like a tree, right? We all know the family tree. Everybody loves to go to ancestry.com and find out about their family tree. Why do we compare it to a tree? Because there's nourishing nutrients. You have to have an abundance of water. You have to have warm sunlight. These are all things that affect the family. So, what are some attitudes, behaviors, and values that sustain and fortify harmony within a family? What are some words that you could add here? Anyone? Page 30, exercise 2.1. Cooperation, okay. What else? Communication. What else? Huh? Ethics. Understanding. Not being judgmental, okay. Acceptance, okay. Love. Togetherness, you said? Forgiveness, okay. Faith, okay. Showing respect. Being honest. Honesty. David, you taking notes? Huh? Compassion, yes. So each of these are worth discussing in their own right. Each of these things that you mentioned. We're going to answer all these things, in a sense, by taking a different perspective. And, I should point out that this is not, of course, any way to judge anyone or open up any wounds or, this is simply to discuss the issue. And hopefully everyone can take some sort of lesson from the discussion of how to better their relationship with their families. The story, they say that the first Jewish president was elected, and it's inauguration day. And it's going to be the first President Moshe. The President Moshe gets up, and it's inauguration day, and his mother is given a seat right at the front, right there on the stage, and everyone's watching and everyone is cheering, and the mother sits right next to the secretary, the soon-to-be Secretary of State, and she turns to him and she says, "You see that guy that's going to be inaugurated president? His brother is a doctor." So, there's something that we'll all tend to gain from this. You know, interesting enough, in my family, many of us became rabbis. I have one brother that became a doctor, and one that became a computer engineer. But my grandmother would always tell us, "Why do you have to be rabbis? Why can't you be a doctor like your father? Your father is a doctor." So let's take a look at text number 1. And what we're going to see from here is that even if there's completely healthy family relationships, still there is room to grow. Text number 1. I received some information about the relationship at home, but I do not know to what extent it reflects the actual situation. Hence, I want to convey to you some thoughts in the light of what is the relationship should be according to the Shulchan Aruch, the Jew's practical guide to life. Again, you see the Rebbe referring to the Torah as the guide to life. If the relationship is indeed in keeping with it, the purpose of this letter will be to strengthen and deepen it, as there is always room for improvement in all matters of goodness and holiness, Torah and mitzvahs. On the other hand, if it's not quite what it should be, I trust that since the Torah is surely a lamp unto your feet, you will bring it up to the desired level and will do it with joy and gladness of heart. And so it's saying that to have healthy relationships, we have to take a look at Torah, and Torah helps us to apply these ideas. In 1974, the Rebbe delivered 2 public addresses about family status in contemporary society. And this is going back to 1974. As we'll see, probably a lot more relevant today, even more. And that is the concern about lack of cohesiveness in families. Text number 2. One of the elements crucial for any nation, especially the Jewish nation, is the preservation of the family unit. Unfortunately, this institution has been utterly neglected. The focus on the family unit is lacking somewhat or significantly, even among those who genuinely try to follow the Torah lifestyle. They set aside time for Torah study, fulfill mitzvahs meticulously, and even act with self-sacrifice to influence Jews who are spiritually disengaged. Yes, the father, the mother, the children are all walking a single path, the path of Torah and mitzvahs. Nevertheless, they do not walk this path as a family. We readily observe the regrettable effects of the father, mother, sons, daughters living in 4 distinct worlds. So what happens is a non-cohesive family unit can bring about, number 1, loneliness. They feel isolated, they feel lonely. It could bring about conflict, poor communication, mistrust, misunderstandings. And it could then become even worse. It could be resentment. They don't see each other as allies. They find themselves competing. And it can foster resentment and emotional scars. And finally, not finally, but as well, the families aren't efficient structures to transmit values, offering direction for them to learn and for the next generation to learn. And so there's many aspects that cause families to come into these situations. Now, of course, this was mentioned in the 1970s. Now we're in 2023, and as you can probably imagine, things have not gotten better, but they've gotten a lot worse. So several societal factors emerge as significant contributions to the erosion of the family cohesion. And we're going to look at a few of these. The first thing that is a contributor is individualism. Emphasis on individual and personal fulfillment. And this adds to a reduced commitment to maintaining close family bonds, and particularly if those bonds are perceived as unhelpful in attaining personal goals, or worse yet, they may feel as contradicting them. And you see this more typically the way teens feel, or the way college students feel. They feel that they may feel that their parents are getting in the way from the way they think. Now, to be clear, we're not trying to criticize individualism. We're just simply pointing out to a societal reality. Do you need a book? I have a book.
You send your kids to college, they come out hating you.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons for that is the emphasis on individual personal fulfillment. I mean, this is a great picture that it shows completely focused on himself. It talks about how somebody has to become themselves successful, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't. Again, but rather we're just pointing out societal realities. And these are not things, this is the reality, and now what we have to address is how to deal with it. We're not going to change the entire societal reality, but the question is how to deal with it. The second thing, again, it's not something that we could change. It's simply a reality that we're living in, and that is technology. In the past, family members who lived in the same home spent extensive time together because there are limited alternatives within the four walls of the home. Today, it's very different. Today, you could go to a restaurant and you'll find 5 family members sitting there and they're all looking down at their phone, one's looking at each other. It could happen in your own home, exactly. But you don't necessarily see what's happening in other people's homes, but you do see it when it's happening in public places. I was playing a game with my kids a short while back, and it was a game that you're supposed to they ask you questions about yourself and you have to answer, and they have to guess or whatever. So the question was, what was your favorite toy growing up? So they're all that they were thinking, what was the electronic that I had? So somehow I had talked about Game Boy, right? Remember Game Boys? All right, so that was growing up with Game Boy. And so my son right away said, it must be a Game Boy. And I said, no, I actually didn't have a Game Boy. I said, my favorite toy was my bike. That was what I did. I rode my bike. He said, really? You rode your bike? Yeah, I rode my bike. And we ride the bike around the block. So, and again, you have social media connections, and that could bring a sense of support and connection and belonging. And we all know that those aren't real friends. People convince themselves that they're real friends, but they're not. And so, that's this is again. I'm not here to criticize technology. Technology comes with great ideas, great things. The world is changing in a positive way. Yesterday, I talked about a computer chip being implanted in a person's brain. There's incredible things that are happening in technology, but we also have to know how to navigate that. Another thing that is affecting is the lack of parenting, and more specifically motherhood. We talk about lacking fathers, but also, there isn't much talk about the lack of motherhood, because, if you look at what's going on, the reality is that with the women's movements, etc. Women now Many of them go to work, and they're involved in other things where once upon a time they were home basically most of the day, taking care of their kids. Again, this is not to criticize women in the workforce. It's simply a reality that has to be dealt with, that has to be understood, that it does affect the family, and women who want to have a positive effect on their family have to be able to balance that and to see both things as important. So basically there's a fewer forces encouraging us to unify as a family, while there's more that pulls us apart. And worst case scenarios, this can be very difficult result of family dysfunction or complete breakdown of the family union. So what did the Rebbe advise us to do about these challenges? We're going to watch a video and we'll observe, first of all, him underscoring the importance of family.
Rabbi Yitzhak Meir Gurari is Mashpia of the Lubavitcher Yeshiva in Montreal. His father, Rabbi Zalman Gurari, was a devoted chassid and a financial supporter of the Rebbe's work.
At the time, he was sort of test. My father did business in overseas with big, rich people. Rashad, who was in charge of the yeshiva, asked my father that when he goes over there, he should take him along, introduce him to those people who came to raise money for the yeshiva. My father says, okay, I'll do it on one condition. If you get the Rebbe to promise me that if we're successful, he'll give me a bracha for whatever I ask for. So he went to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, okay, make a deal. So they went to him, and they were very successful. When they came back, father told Rashad, so he went to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, okay, tell him to come back. He came in, he asked the Rebbe, what do you want? So the Rebbe asked him, what do you want? I told you, what do you want? My father had a problem, a big business problem. It's not a problem, not myself what? He needed a nest. He wanted to ask my brother that he should have this nest. So the Rebbe said, you have a chance to euch betten als für die Wils. Die erste Sache betten an der Hof nachts für Kinder. Die Kinder sollen sein, frohe Kinder sollen euch wachsen, sagt der Rebbe. So my father says, better das. I said, okay, we can talk. I don't know if he asked the game of for the business team, that I don't know, but my father agreed with this very often. I do remember sometimes, I don't know if it's transcribed, but I had such a memory, recollection, that the Rebbe once by Fabreinen mentioned the Nusach HaBrocha, Bon HaChayim, Zoyne Rebicha, that he uses. The Rebbe uses very often HaBrocha, Bon HaChayim, Zoyne Rebicha. So, it's with a deep fact. Born and Nachas and children is much more important than even Gesund. And Parnasa is the third.
The Rebbetzin loved the Rebbe with all of her heart. I mean, the Rebbe loved the Rebbetzin all the time. He always showed great concern for her, and he was always telling me, please, go after this visit and meeting to the Rebbetzin to reassure her that things are okay. She's always so worried. And vice versa, the Rebbetzin just had such a great admiration and respect for her. The Rebbe chaired his private tea party with the Rebbetzin. The Rebbe said that he equates the importance of the tea party with his wife on a daily basis with the necessity to put on tefillin.
Ça c'est mon directeur en Suisse, à la vente commerciale régionale. Thank you very much. Well, I'm always good partners. I'm very glad.
You can sell interested in goods, they were the bank is good, and they have to sell them.
They were very happy. All good. Thank you.
So you have there a few very, very powerful episodes. The one from the Rebbe's doctor, Dr. Weiss, where he says that the half hour that he spent with his Rebbitzin having tea, he considered it as important as the mitzvah of putting on tefillin every day. So, now obviously it's just a half hour, but to make that half hour, to put that kind of value on it. So it doesn't mean to stop everything that's happening in life, but it means to find the value in those moments. Okay, the Rebbe expounded this on a talk in 1974. Let's take a look at text number 3, page 34. When God counted the Jewish people, in addition to the census of the entire nation equaling 603,550, as it says in Numbers, the Torah emphasizes and repeats that its members were counted according to their families to the houses of their fathers, meaning they were counted as family units. So when you have the Torah census, it says Mishpechotam Leveit Avotam, for their families, for their father's house, meaning that they were all counted as family units. That's the way. That's the way. Going back to the founding of our people, of our nation, this is what it would say. As well, we also find that the family is the pinnacle of sanctity. And this is something that's very, very fascinating. You have God's name, Yud, K, Vav, K. It's 4 letters in God's name. A Yud, a Hey, a Vav, and a Hey. So listen to this. Text number 4. The Torah's mystical teachings strongly emphasize the importance of the family unit. The minimum requirement to fulfill the mitzvah to be fruitful and multiply is to give birth to a son and a daughter. Kabbalah and Chassidus explain that this is hinted in the name of God, spelled with the letters Yud and Hey, followed by Vav and Hey. The Yud corresponds to the father, the first Hey to the mother, the Vav alludes to the male child, and the final Hey to the daughter. A family with all 4 elements, father, mother, daughter, and son, is complete with representation of the divine name. It follows then that just as the 4 letters of the divine name, when inscribed together as a word, become a unique entity, God's personal name, so the individual are fundamentally transformed into new existence when they become a family unit. So, according to Kabbalah, you have the Yud, K, Vav, K, the father, the mother, the son, and the daughter. In other words, God's name itself is actually a makeup of the family unit. Fascinating idea, according to Kabbalah. So you see that the family is linked to the most holy entity, to the divine name. Now, another aspect that we find, we're going to soon read in next parsha that God instructed the Jewish people to build a Mishkan, a Mikdash, a holy temple. Says, continuation, text number 5, in communicating his directive to build a holy temple, God stated, "Build for me a temple and I will dwell within them." Right? So how many temples is there? There's one temple. So why does it say dwell within them? Our sages note the anomaly that the verse says within them, the Jewish people, instead of within it, the temple. This informs us that God wishes to dwell not only in his temple, but also within each of us. In truth, God's dwelling within us is not a secondary objective, but primary objective of this directive. This is something that you won't find anywhere else explained. Say, the quote from the Talmud you see in many places, within them, within everyone. But Rebbe is saying, no, that's actually the primary objective, is to find the temple within yourself. And we're going to see how this plays out in a little bit. Instead, the reverse is the case. The Torah states openly, "I will dwell within them," indicating that this is the primary objective. The opening of the verse, "Build for me a temple," is simply the method by which the primary goal of dwelling within the Jewish people can be achieved. Where's the physical location of God's dwelling among us? In a home where father and mother, sister and brother form a cohesive family unit. This is now opening up one of the secrets to the question that's asked, how could Chabad be successful if you're an Orthodox synagogue? A good question? Many people have that question. And when you come to a Chabad synagogue, most of them, you look around the room, 90% of the people would not identify themselves as Orthodox. And as we'll see, this is the beginning of the answer to the question. Because is the primary the synagogue, or is the primary the family? The primary the Jewish home? And that's the focus that we try to show, the importance of the Jewish home. And so we see over here, some of you have been to the Western Wall. And you remember going to visit, and you see that beautiful wall, and you stand and pray by the wall. However, that wall is not ultimately where it is. It's ultimately the Beis HaMikdash, the temple that stood behind it, which we hope to be rebuilt one day. And of course, that is what it's referring to build God's home. But God created this world with a purpose, and the purpose revolves around us, humanity, making the place more habitable, rectifying the evil, and ultimately revealing God's oneness here. And so God's strategy starts with the home. God's strategy starts with the family, with those involved, to establish a sacred space in their corner in this world, expressing love, support, mutual appreciation. This is the idea of the household theme, to have those values and traditions within the home, to heal and infuse godliness in every corner of the world, in every place in the world, to have that Jewish home. And so the idea is to have a dwelling place for God, that the family coming together of how we as within our home, we can make it a place for God, make our home a dwelling place and a mishkan, a mikdash, a holy place. Yeah.
Okay, I understand, I think in part, the family unit is being the mother, father, brother, sister.
Right.
Well, what about families that have multiple children, all the same sex?
I mean, you obviously something that you can't control. Like I hear someone say, we're in the job of we're in the job of how do you say it? Our job is the efforts, and God's job is the results. Yeah. So, this is as I mentioned before, we have to take, for each and every one of us sitting here, we all may have different personal circumstances, different family circumstances, but we could all take out a message to some extent from this.
Is it accepted if a woman doesn't use the son? Everything you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, you do what you can. You can't control the children that are born, right? So what are you going to do?
I was brought up at home. My mother was the foundation. She built the house.
Right.
And that was a simple family. And we grew from there.
So what's your question? That you didn't have any brothers?
No.
Okay.
All girls, yeah.
It happens. I mean, that's we don't control the results.
Rabbi, it's known now that in the Rebbe past, it's known the case of the particularly with a lineage situation.
Mm-hmm.
Then why would he have ever considered adopting a child?
There are a number of people who asked, I mentioned the Rebbitzin, it was her yahrzeit this past week. She was a very, very private woman, and very few people knew her personally, but there were some people who did. And there was a family that had known her, and, would go and spend time in her home. And one of the kids, innocently asked her, Rebbitzin or whatever he said, "Where's your children?" And, the mother was probably listening and was probably mortified by the question. You don't ask, that's not a nice question to ask, but that's what the boy asked. She looked at him, she smiled, and she said, "My children are in 770. In other words, she said, all Hasidim are my children. So those are her adopted children. That's the answer. She had thousands of adopted children. Yeah. I can't answer why they were not blessed with children. I don't, that's beyond my pay grade.
Could you also, Rabbi, that the Kabbalistic interpretation of the Yud Kei Vav Kei, could have just been a poetic way for the Kabbalists to explain unity in a family rather than to say, okay, every family has to have.
It's not poetic. Kabbalah is saying what the spiritual significance of what happens in this world is. Why does that not translate into the physical realm for some families? I can't answer that. Yes, I'm sorry.
Well, Torah says that God opens and closes the womb. My daughter Melissa had 6 pregnancies. 5 of them didn't make it. The first one was an actual miracle. It should have never happened. I'll make it really brief. She's in a medical hospital in the Navy, and the baby started coming early. The doctor, she ran a temperature. Nobody knew why. The doctor said to her, grab something to eat and come back. The minute he got to his threshold of his house, he stepped in and knew something was wrong, turned around and went back. They did an emergency C-section. And before they actually knocked her out, he said, "You aren't having any more babies?" And she said no, because the last one was like a year before we had Jacob. When he opened her up, her uterus had holes in it. If he waited another 5 minutes, they both would have died. So it's God's doing on whether we have boys, girls, or children.
Right. So, yeah, again, I can't answer, as I said before, God's in the results business. I can't answer why that happens. In Halakha it says you should try to have a boy and a girl. Obviously, it doesn't happen by everyone. What are you going to do? It's not something you could control. What are you going to do? Okay. Let's see the next video.
In 1970, Rabbi Nosson Gurari and his wife set out on shlichus, establishing the Chabad Student Center at State University of New York, Buffalo.
On the first year after I was already in Buffalo, I went in with my late wife to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe gave tremendous brachas. Among the things that he said was that there should be a dira b'tachtonim in the city of Buffalo and all the communities around. But the Rebbe ended with these holy words that the Nekuda HaPnimius, from out, which means all the things that he blessed till now, the Nekuda HaPnimius from out is Chassidus Shenachas from the kingdom. Which means that the Rebbe made it very clear that the most important thing, he said already, Dir b'tachtonim, you would think, what could come after that? He specifically said, but the Nekuda HaPnimius from out is Chassidus Shenachas from the kingdom.
So that was the Chabad rabbi in Buffalo, and he was one of the pioneers of Chabad on campus. And you can imagine what it is to raise children in a campus environment. That was back then. I don't know if it's gotten any better today. I have gone to school in Buffalo, so it's been a little crazy back then, probably, as you could imagine. Today you have how many, I don't know, probably hundreds of Chabad shluchim and campuses throughout the world. I myself have a number of siblings. There's some, University of Florida, University of Chicago, and some other places in university in Nice, and you can imagine, what it's almost like unfathomable that you're taking a Jewish family, a Hasidic family, and you're saying, go and park yourself in this kind of environment and raise your children in this kind of environment. And yet for the Rebbe, that was actually not only in other words, some people see it as part of the thing, we got to get through as well to make sure that your family makes it. And over here he's saying, no, this is the primary. The primary is that your children should be a significant part of what you do. And you see, this is the way Chabad families try to emulate this idea that the children become a significant part of what we do. Not they are a side job that we got to take care of, but it becomes a very central part of everything that we do. Again, another Chabad secret. It's not such a secret, but so how do we deal with this ultimately? So remember last week we gave a key message, and that was that most people ask, what do I need? And the bright way to do it is to ask what? What am I needed for, right? I saw that you posted on Facebook, you liked that line. So we're going to keep following along with that idea. Not what can I gain from my family, but what can I do? You see, most people, when they look at family unit, they look and say, is it worth it? Is my family worth it? And this is not only financially, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it's, if grandma and grandpa will pay me off well enough, then I'll go and visit them. If not, then it's not worth my time. But in general, the toll that family takes on energy, effort, and in a crucial stage in life, the question becomes, what have you done for me lately? And this becomes the question of teenagers and those growing up, and they feel that even if there's emotional support and belonging, but I'll get it more with my friends. Yes, my parents may even give me love, maybe they're loving parents, but I have loving friends even much more. They say, my father is very wise, but I have Google to answer my questions, so I don't really need him anymore. Yes, maybe my parents could pay a little bit. Maybe they could pay for my life's needs, but I could get a side job. I'll work as a waitress, and I'll take care of my needs, so I don't really need them anymore. And so this is when we approach it as saying, what can I gain from the family? And so if the effort is a lot and the results are very little, so maybe it's not worth my time to waste with my family. They're very nice, but I'm gaining more from hanging out with my friends. Now, this is really what's happening in the back of the mind of a teenager or a college student. But then comes the question of, what have I done for it? If we see it as a sacred task, if we see it as a primary goal, if we see it as something that is part of our mission and purpose in this world, then we say, what have I done for it lately? What small act can I do to become closer to my spouse, to my siblings, to my children, to my parents, to make it a more unified experience. And so then the efforts actually turn out to be even much less than seem to be not as difficult as the results that come out from it. And this is why the Rebbe was always advocating this perspective in addressing issues of family cohesiveness. For families, the risk of living together but drifting apart is always that fear. And so you have to inspire them by exploring avenues of strengthening and enriching family bonds. Text number 6. This is a correspondence. Overriding consideration. I trust it is unnecessary to emphasize to you at length the Jewish way of life, together with its customs, etc., is not only very significant in general, but also in every detail and in the order of things. In light of this, it becomes obvious how important are peace and harmony between husband and wife, since the mitzvah making peace between a husband and wife is counted among the mitzvahs whose fruits a Jew enjoys in this world, while the capital remains of the world to come. This is one of the blessings we say every morning. The importance of investing in that, because its fruits enjoys in this world, and the capital remains of the world to come. These are mentioned right at the beginning of the Siddur, together with the morning blessings, which are said even before starting the actual morning prayers. With this approach in mind, it will prove somewhat easier to understand that even if one party were to be completely in the right, or almost completely in the right, while the other party was completely in the wrong, or almost completely in the wrong, it would still be incumbent upon both parties to do everything in their power to restore peace and harmony. As to the situation itself, only who is right and who is wrong, I cannot, of course, go into this, nor is it necessary in light of what has been said above. For the important thing is, as already stated, is to strengthen the family ties. This belongs to overriding consideration. However, it would be well if you could find mutual friend before who both of you could unburden yourselves in a frank exchange of grievance. It is possible that an outsider who at the same time is a friend might see more objectively and find the best way to strengthen things out, and in the soonest possible time, so that once again peace and harmony may reign in the home. So obviously we're talking here about a couple that's having marital issues, and they're not getting along. And but we take a look at the response that they're receiving. Number one, the response is, know how important it is. Know how important it is. It's one of the primary mitzvahs discussed every single day. And that's as he says, it's from the morning blessings, talking about peace between husband and wife. Number two, he says, I'm not going to get into who's right and wrong. I'm not even going there, because that's not the issue. The issue is not who's right and who's wrong. That's not going to solve anything. If we start pointing fingers, it's not going to solve anything. And number three, the actual advice that's given is, take a look at a mutual friend. You know, typically, if people have problems today, they're always running to professionals. They're paying thousands of dollars, and because obviously, if they're getting paid for it, it means that they're a real professional. And right, you say not necessarily just because someone's getting paid. On the contrary, because they're getting paid, they may have a bias in one way or another. Who knows? Maybe someone will be slipping them money onto. I mean, you don't know what's going on. But you go to a mutual friend who knows both of you, who cares for both of you. And by the way, this was the Rebbe's approach in many aspects as well as health. We're going to talk next week about health. You know, finding a doctor who's not only a doctor but also a mutual friend. And he says, see if you can work things out. I mentioned by the Kiddush yesterday a story of how the Rebbe and Rebbitzin went to visit a couple, and no one knew it was late at night, and they went to visit this couple, And basically they said, we're not walking out of here until you work things out. And it was as simple as that. I mean, it wasn't simple, but they said, we're not walking out of here until you work things out. And so this was a model of how the importance of bringing peace. Number one, you have to know the significance of it. Know why it's important. Number two, to not focus on who's right and who's wrong. And number three, to bring a mutual friend. These are three good lessons for how to deal with these type of situations. Again, the next thing about the importance of having an effort, everything that we do. Text number 7. Our Torah teaches us that as water reflects to a face, so does one heart respond to another. I see from your letter that you are willing to do everything that depends on you, that there should be shalom bayis, peace and harmony in your home. And as a practical businessman, you are surely implementing this in actual practice. I am therefore confident that the above quotation from the Torah will be fulfilled also in the present case. I want to take advantage of this opportunity, since you have written to me, to emphasize again the enormous importance of shalom bayis, which means peace in the home, so much as our Torah calls Torah's emes because it presents the truth, declares. Again, you see, the Torah called Torah's emes because it presents truth, the Torah of truth, declares that when a husband and wife are worthy, the Shekhinah, divine presence, abides among them. Obviously, every effort is worthwhile to ensure God's presence in the home, with all that it means in terms of His blessing, material and spiritually. Hence, even when one thinks that one is 100% right, it pays to conciliate for the sake of peace, and especially for the sake of the abiding Shekhinah as above. All right, so he says, not only for your peace, that you're doing it for God as well. There's the Shekhinah above. There's also the assurance of the sages in such matters. Try hard and you will succeed. So he's saying that it is, I should point out, the Torah does recognize that there are times where divorce is necessary, and the Torah accepts divorce as a sometimes last resort, if you will, solution to the situation. So now, what do we see from here? We see from here in the Torah's view and the significance of the family life. And we see from here a few important things. Number one, you have to be willing to invest. You have to be willing to work on it. You have to sometimes be willing to compromise. You have to take the first steps towards reconciliation and to make things work. Now, this is especially when it comes to family. It is true when, if you're going in a business, if you're going on a business venture and one partner is underperforming, so you don't necessarily have to keep that relationship going. And if you see this relationship is not going anywhere, we're talking about those that God has blessed you with, to be part of your family, to be part of your life, and these are the things that we need to work on to make it happen. Okay. Now, so what can we actually do? So you say, this is very nice. Can you give us some ideas of what we could actually do to make a difference with our family? So here's some concrete steps. The first thing is, God gave us a gift, and it's called what? Shabbat. Shabbos. Text number 8. One solution for this challenge is to emphasize something that is already important for other reasons. Efforts should be made to ensure that all family members come together, beginning with Friday evening and especially on Friday night when the Shabbat meal is served. Parents and children should gather together in the same room around the same table, engaging in conversation fitting for Shabbat. On Shabbat, it's easier for the family to unite because family members aren't engaged in their weekday endeavors. When the family nurtures this unity on Shabbat, it will experience unity throughout the week. The factor that unites them, cultivated during the Shabbat meal, will prevail over their differing focus areas, so their differences only complement each other. Achieving such unity within the family is not likely to occur spontaneously because the importance of the family unit has been overlooked for several years. We must acknowledge that this area demands dedicated attention and effort. Fortunately, the Talmud assures us that diligent work will yield positive results. Now this letter was in 1974. How much more so now? This was before the invention of cell phones and before every teenager had their own distractions. And he's saying, sit around the Shabbos table and spend quality time. This is true about friends as well. To be able to use the opportunity on Shabbos, put everything aside, turn off all your cell phones, and not pay attention to anything else that's happening. Shabbos is a time of rest. Don't think about work. Don't think about other issues. Focus on those who are sitting there together to spend that quality time together. So number one, it brings quality time. Number two, it brings unifying discussions. Don't talk politics. That usually doesn't help. And number three, you have no technological distractions. So this is one important focus is the idea of Shabbos. So celebrating Shabbos helps out with that. So here you have one, at least so far, one practical solution that we could take on in order to bring more quality to our life, to our families, by focusing on Shabbos. Now, the next aspect. Everyone's with me so far? Okay. Is it cold? Should I turn the heat up? Yeah. Want to turn the heat up? Okay, in the back corner there, just press it. I mean, the heat's already on, but could turn it a little higher. Just press up. So don't turn it too high. Okay. Another thing underlying much of the Rebbe's advice is about family that's worthy of our attention. So couples seeking to enhance their relationship often thoroughly evaluate their lives to ensure that all essential components of the healthy partnerships are in place. We have to focus on things like gratitude, attentive listening, respect, quality time, compromise. All these things are important to ensure that that we're focused in the right way. These are many of the things that many of you have mentioned in the beginning. And the same is true in general about families. But it wasn't just about the fact that this is how we have a good family. It was about having the right foundation. To know what is the foundation of a home. When you have the right foundation in your home, then you have a good and healthy home. Text 9. I have learned with pleasure of your forthcoming marriage. I send you and your bride my blessings of Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. It is superfluous to underscore that from the moment of marriage, a new era begins in the life of two persons who have united into one to build together an eternal home among our people Israel into posterity. As in the case of building a physical home, the important thing, even to those who otherwise attach much value to external appearances and superficialities, is the solid foundation upon which the entire edifice is to rest. So, and more so, in the case of the spiritual home, the important and vital conditions are not to be found in superfluous aspects, but in reliability and character for the material to withstand all sorts of tests and all kinds of weather. What I mean by the solid foundation of the Jewish home needs no elaboration to you. Throughout our ages, the Torah and mitzvahs have been the solid foundations of our people and have given us courage and strength to endure the most terrible inhuman persecutions and tests to the limit of self-sacrifice and martyrdom. This power of self-sacrifice for Torah and mitzvahs has made us indestructible. It's my heartfelt wish to you, and I am confident of it, that you and your chosen one will together build your home from the start upon the solid foundations of Torah and mitzvahs with an unshakable determination to make your home Jewish in every way, in thought and in deed, thus assuring yourselves real happiness and Jewish happiness. So what's he saying? That we have to make a solid foundation. What is the foundation of a home? What does it say? Foundations of Torah and mitzvahs. And think about this. Why is that the foundation of the Jewish home? Why is that foundation of a home? Yeah, you could say, well, the Rebbe is a religious leader, so he wants to tell you that would make sense. That you have to have Torah and mitzvahs in your home. But the truth is that it's saying more than that. He's saying that not just that it's good for Judaism. It's not just because it's good to have a Jewish home. But that it's good for a strong, healthy family relationship to be built on the right foundation. Why is that? Because, as noted in Lesson 1, that the Rebbe taught that there is no real divide between the physical and spiritual. And we observed that one's financial well-being depends on one's spiritual well-being. We talked about that last week. And the same is regard to family life. We have to have a success in our spiritual life in order to have success in our physical life. But the Rebbe once said this: when there's peace between body and soul, it makes peace between spouses all the easier. An important line. And the same is true, even if you say, well, what if one is more religious than the other? It's a question that comes up a lot. So the Rebbe once answered someone. He says, if you believe that Torah is the right way, the Torah also talks about the importance of having pleasantness and peace. And so you shouldn't come off, he tells the husband, you shouldn't come off as being a boss or telling your wife what to do. That's also a Torah value. In other words, when we're talking about Torah values, we're not only talking about spiritual values. We're talking about physical values as well. Knowing the importance of that Torah wants there to be peace, wants there to be health, wants there to be connection, but to have the right foundation. And so, when it comes to human relationships, it requires connection points. And these points can be by family members providing for each other mutual psychological and safety needs, as well as emotional support and bringing things for each other that's needed. So it begins with the fulfillment of needs. What are basic needs? If you have Torah and mitzvahs as your primary goal, then your needs are focused in a similar way. Doesn't mean everyone's the same, no. But it means that you don't necessarily have needs that are conflicting or clashing with each other. And so it's imperative that the foundation needs to be something that is unifying. The second thing is you have to have common ground. You have to have interests that you share. When you're collectively committed to leading a purpose-oriented life, then that translates into the boundary then that transcends the boundaries of individual desires and egos. So that's another thing, having a common ground. And so therefore, when you have a Torah foundation, number one, it helps with our needs, that our needs don't necessarily clash. Number two, it gives us a common ground. And number three, a Torah foundation is able to affect all aspects of our life. It encompasses not only performing mitzvahs, but also our career, our hobbies, our schooling, and everything else. You know, I come from a family of 13, and my mother, people ask my mother, how do you do it? I think she always just says, I don't know, just sort of happened. But the truth is, you know, that looking back, as a Chabad Hasidim, which by the way, both of my parents did not grow up as Chabad Hasidim. They didn't grow up religious, but they became. But they obviously raised us in that way. And there were always these foundations, these ideas. Now, sitting, as we said, sitting together as a Shabbat table, sharing some Torah thoughts, having one focus, one common goal. Doesn't mean they're all the same. No, we're all very different. But to have certain things that's a foundation of the home, and that foundation is something that needs to be strong. And this is why having a family that's focused on Torah and mitzvahs, focused on God, is something that is very significant. To have God in the family. What's the cliche? Family that prays together, stays together. That's not really a Jewish idea. You know why? You know why it's not a Jewish idea? Because that assumes that in order to be together, you have to pray together in the synagogue. But that's actually not the right way. The right way is to recognize that you have to have a Jewish home together. If you have a Jewish foundation in your home, then you'll stay together. If you're together when it comes prayer, in other religions, they get together and everyone goes together holding hands going to church. That's wonderful. But the Jewish idea is that you have to have a Jewish home together. And with that, the Rebbe advised families to strengthen their homes with one mitzvah at a time. The same idea as the one mitzvah at a time thing, that thing. This comes from campaigns, just like you have the Tefillin campaign and the Mezuzah campaign. It was at this time that the Rebbe actually came up with a number. There's actually 12, what we call 12 mivtzayim. There's 10 mivtzayim, 2 were added. It's known as the 10 Mivtza campaign, the 10 mitzvah campaign. And most of these are focused on the home. And that's what you're going to notice here. Let's take a look at what they are. Figure 2.2, page 46. These are all campaigns that came out similar time. Most of these talks were from the early 1970s, where the Rebbe focused a lot on the family home. One example, tzedakah. Every home should have a tzedakah box. It will remind the household to give tzedakah daily. Another point here, it should be attached to the kitchen wall to ensure it is noticed. The Rebbe wanted that I think I talked about this last week, that the tzedakah box should be attached to the wall of the home. It should be part of the home. Not just that there should be a box in the home, but to attach it to the wall to make it part of the home. And they make special tzedakah boxes you can actually attach to the wall. A Jewish home needs Jewish sacred books. A home filled with holy books. People walk into my house and say, Rabbi, you have so many books. Wow. No, I did not read all of them. I have to be honest. But there is the concept of just having a home that has Jewish books there. That itself already identifies your home as being a sacred home. Having a mezuzah on the wall, of course. Every Jewish home needs kosher mezuzahs. Torah study, each Jew should engage in Torah study at home. Couples should study together, fathers and mothers studying with their children. You should have time dedicated to studying Torah in the home. Not just that when it comes to synagogue or when the rabbi is giving a class to go to his Torah classes, but to study at home. You should still come. Don't worry. Lighting Shabbat candles. Jewish women and girls light Shabbat candles each Friday afternoon. Married women should light at least 2 candles. Again, you're bringing the light into the home. Kosher. Eating kosher, maintaining a kosher home. And Jewish married couples should observe Jewish marital laws, family purity. Anybody?
How do you stay kosher when you cannot find anywhere to buy kosher meat?
Right here.
So frustrating.
They have it right here.
Kosher meat, first of all, you can buy kosher meat here. And second of all, you could buy in Publix. They have some kosher sections.
Trader Joe's has a complete fresh kosher.
Oh, there's no Trader Joe's here. You need to travel for that.
Gainesville is up.
Gainesville, yeah. Yeah, I mean, aside for kosher meat, pretty much everything else you can get kosher in local stores. There's so many kosher symbols out there. Yeah, but meat you could get here. You talk to Khani and she'll help you out with that. Okay, but again, I want to stress here again that what was the Rebbe's campaigns? Most of them were focused on Jewish homes. And this goes back to the original question that I asked in the beginning. How is it that Chabad could be successful if we're an Orthodox synagogue? And the answer is we're not an Orthodox synagogue. We are trying at least to represent a Jewish life. Not a Jewish synagogue, a Jewish life. Judaism is about your entire life, not about a house of worship, not about a house of prayer. As we read before, when God commanded us to build Him a home, the sanctuary, the temple, which of course was the spiritual center of Jewish life, even at that time, God says, what's the primary thing? To dwell in them, in each and every one.
I have a question about that. Several people have said to me that if you have to drive on Shabbat, you should stay home. That you're breaking the Shabbat by driving. And, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because I can only get here by driving.
I can't answer. It is an issue. It is a problem. Okay.
In the late 1970s, Charles Ramont had a number of audiences with the Rebbe. During one of these meetings, he asked the Rebbe about something he was struggling with.
I told the Rebbe, I love Judaism, I love a lot of the rituals, but for me they're nostalgic. How do I find true faith and true belief? And it's almost like we had philosophic discussions, but they were the things that were really bothering me more than should I invest in this property or should I invest in that property. And the Rebbe's responses were absolutely deep and incredible. And they were tailor-made to me. It wasn't a system that he said, you have to go into the system and you will be better. He really, I felt, was speaking to what would work for me. And he asked me,
do you keep kosher? And I said, no. Which, by the way, took a lot of guts to sit in front of the rabbi. Terrifying moment. But, you know, my relationship was based on total honesty. How could you lie to the Rebbe? He says, do you put on tefillin every day? I said, no. He said, so I'm going to ask you to do one thing. If I ask you to do one thing, without any precondition, will you do it? I said, yes. Anything you ask me, I promise you I will do it. He says, will you and your wife agree to light Shabbat candles every Friday night while you're married? I said, done. And we worked at that point. We have never missed in half a century lighting Shabbat candles. My children, when they grew up, even though they went to secular schools, Friday night and Shabbat, not the day of Shabbat, but Friday night was sacrosanct. Nobody went out. When my kids were teenagers, no parties. I had all kinds of business meetings, dinner invitations, you know, fun things to go do. Friday night is Shabbat, we're home. We never missed lighting the candles. And I would say that simple mitzvah, which is one out of, you know, 500 that I'm not doing, has kept my family on a Jewish path throughout our lives.
Shmuel Abramson works in special education and lives in Monsey, New York. As a college student in the mid-1970s, he decided to reconnect to his Jewish heritage.
When I later transferred out of my school because I became interested in, finding the right path, and at one time I was going to come to yeshiva in Crown Heights. At the last minute, I backed out. I was confused. I didn't know what to do. I ended up going to Yeshiva University. It was there that I met my wife, and my wife had come from a modern Orthodox family, and we started seeing each other and growing together. When we eventually became engaged, we scheduled an appointment with the Rebbe. Now, I didn't know how it worked. I was told, put your name down on a piece of paper, put your mother's name down, that we're just going to give the Rebbe that, and the Rebbe's going to give us a blessing, that's it. But I didn't want to miss the opportunity. So, some of the details I don't remember exactly, but I remember that I took 2 pieces of paper. And one I wrote, I figured that the goodbye and the secretary is going to collect one and give it to the Rebbe, but I wrote on another one, Rebbe, I'd like to ask you some questions. We came in, the Rebbe looked at me, the Rebbe looked at the piece of paper, and he said, you'd like to ask me some questions? And the 2 questions I asked the Rebbe. The first one you have to realize again from where I came from and what I grew up with. I asked the Rebbe, even though I had in mind more than I had in mind the drug experience of other drugs, but it was capsulized. I asked the Rebbe, I said, I have 2 questions. One, is marijuana a legitimate means to religious consciousness? Okay? And the second question was, I said, how do I and my Kala achieve compatibility? I said these words, I said, my lifestyle in the past was beyond her wildest nightmares. And how do we achieve compatibility? So the Rebbe looked at me, and then he said, are these your only 2 questions? And I said, yes. And he gave a big smile, looked at both of us, and he said, then you're going to be a very happy couple. And when the Rebbe said that, I felt like the whole room breathed a sigh of relief. I felt totally relaxed after that. The smile was a smile that lit up the room. And by the Rebbe saying that, by the way, that you're going to be a very happy couple, Leah and I, after 36 years, that's rang true, rings true. The Rebbe answered the first question first, then I asked the second question second. And he said in the realm of the compatibility question, he says, we need to have a common goal. He said, my goal, he said to me, is to strengthen my wife in Torah mitzvahs. Her goal is to strengthen me in Torah mitzvahs. And he said, we should learn together. He suggested at that time, because of my lack of background at the time, we should learn Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, he said, and he said he believes that it's in English, we can learn it in English, we should learn together. And he said, then when we take this common goal of fortifying each other, and we have children will be able to communicate and give our goal over to the child in turn. And he says all the differences will become dissipated in that common goal.
Mrs. Russell Fogelman and her husband have been shluchim in Worcester, Massachusetts since 1947.
I would speak, and I organized groups of not women that belonged to the yeshiva, women that were outside of the yeshiva, outside of the fringe of our sphere, and I spoke, and they always asked me to do book reviews. And whenever I did a book review, no matter what the book, I always brought in something about Yiddishkeit and used the book review as a vehicle to speak about Torah and Yiddishkeit and to draw them closer. We went in for Yechidus, and the Rebbe just greeted us so beautifully, so warmly, and my husband mentioned to the Rebbe that the following week I was going to speak at the temple, and I was going to do a book review on The Chosen, Chaim Potok. The Rebbe looked at me, and he looked at me in the way that only the Rebbe could look at someone, with a deep perception, with a knowledgeable, otherworldly perception. And he looked and he said, they're going to listen to you. And then the Rebbe said, speak about Taras HaMishpacha. Well, I was taken aback. I would love to speak about Taras HaMishpacha. This book, The Chosen, is a book about boys, about the relationship of a son and his father. And I thought, how am I going to bring that and speak about Taras HaMishpacha? But the Rebbe said, speak about Taras HaMishpacha. It was no question. That's what I had to do. When I came to the temple that morning that I had to speak, we met in a room downstairs that the temple people used for their small minyanim, if someone had to say Kaddish or whatever. And the room soon filled up. It filled up so quickly that the chairman of the chair lady said, well, we'll go upstairs to the main sanctuary. Now, the main sanctuary in the temple is a very large room. It must hold about 1,000 people. It's huge. And pretty soon, the room began to fill up more and more until there was standing room in the back, and women were standing there. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. And I started out with a book by Chaim Potok. I described the scene, what it meant, and then I mentioned, did you notice that there are no women in this book? Did you notice that the father's wife is not mentioned? The son's mother is not brought to light? And there's no relationship between men and women. The reason there's no relationship in this book, because to touch upon it would require a book in itself. The relationship between men and women in Jewish life is holy and precious, and it is based on Taras HaMishpacha. And I went on from there and I explained what Taras HaMishpacha was, what it meant to us, and why it was a flaw in the book and a flaw in most Jewish lives because people are unaware of it. The audience was electrified. People called me up, women called me up, where is the mikveh that you spoke of? It was an old mikveh on the east side that was used by very few women. It was in such a decrepit old building. So what we knew, we needed a new building, and this started a campaign for a new mikveh building. That was how it began, and ultimately we built the mikveh here in Worcester. We have to realize Koyches Pneumium, inner strength that the Eibishter gives us, is what the Rebbe sees in us all the time. And he strengthens us in such a way and directs us in such a way that those Koyches Pneumium are brought to a fruition that they have positive and actual results in reality.
By the way, we need a mikveh here too. I'm just saying.
You kidding me? That's 1/4 of it.
Yeah, so I actually said you're supposed to build a mikveh before you build a synagogue in a city. Now I'm just going to end off with this last thing, which is the importance of, while recognizing the cohesiveness of a family and of a group, we also have to recognize the importance of individuality as well. So how can we balance being part of a group while many individuals? The purpose of human commitments is to nurture and empower the individual. Just going to read this quickly. This was a letter that was written to Mr. Kaddish Lutz, who wrote a book called Avnei Derech about detailing the life of a kibbutz in Israel. So the Rebbe writes them like this, text 10a. The Talmud notes that just as people's faces differ from one another, so in their minds. Therefore, individuals attain contentment and wholeness when they actualize their personal and unique potential in its fullest measure. This level of satisfaction is not found to the same extent when they engage in matters that they share in common with others. Instead, it's achieved through engaging in things that they excel in, and that set them apart from their companions and surroundings. This achievement allows them to express their essence. On the other hand, human nature is not to live in solitude. It is not good for humans to be alone. It's our nature to seek social interactions that allows us to reach our completeness. So he's telling him that while it's nice to have a kibbutz where everyone has to, put together in the single pot, if you will, and everybody has to work off everything in the same together, but still you have to recognize the importance of individuality. On one hand, text 10b, collective living is essential because it provides structure for people to share resources through which great things can be attained, greater even than the sum of individual strengths. On the other hand, collective living is not an end in itself. It is a preparatory stage to the development of each person's individuality and uniqueness, allowing it to be realized in the best and to the fullest measure. Often the idea of collective living arouses in members an inner resistance against the order that seeks to subdue the individual's uniqueness and endeavor to perform the individual into a member of the larger block. If, however, people are informed of their collective living leads to a personal development and maximize their ability to reach even greater personal goals by freeing them from the worries of less important goals, because the group utilizes an increased capacity to provide for everyone's basic needs without wasting crucial time and resources, it's not only neutralizes their natural resistance, but increases their passion and commitment to their roles within the group. So it's basically saying to recognize the importance of the group, but to not get lost in it and know that it's important as an individual as well. So we didn't spend much time on that, but one more thing. The final text, the urgent request to all children everywhere, God bless you all, greetings and blessings. I'm now presenting in greater detail my suggestion, an urgent request to each of you, boy and girl, to turn your bedroom, your bed, your table, and so on into a miniature home of Torah, prayer, and good deeds. You can do this by using your personal space and furniture to study some Torah, recite a prayer, and put money into a tzedakah box, excluding Shabbos festivals and the like daily. You should own your own siddur prayer book and pray from it there, your own chumash and your own Torah book and study from it. And keep your own tzedakah box there. You should follow the Jewish custom in inscribing inside of your siddur and sacred books with the Hebrew word Lashem Haaretz Meloah, Lamed Hey Vav, meaning the earth and all its contents belongs to God, where your name is below it. If possible, to write the name of your tzedakah box as well. So he was saying the importance of recognizing that each child should have their own books and their own their own Torah books, etc., their own prayer books, and not just to have public for the family, but each child should know that they individually are connected to these things. We'll end it with this. So as you can see in that last clip, the importance of having children do these things, not just the adults.